Washington is famous for its dense forests, towering evergreens, and mist-covered trails. By day, the forest seems alive only with the sounds of birds, wind, and rustling leaves. But when darkness falls, the forest becomes a place of shadows, whispers, and unseen eyes. Footsteps echo behind hikers when no one walks there. Lanterns swing in abandoned campsites, though no one is present. Figures appear between the trees, pale and fleeting, vanishing before anyone can reach them. Some say that if you listen carefully, the forest whispers names of those who wandered in and never came out. Tonight, we will walk the 20 most haunted forest trails in Washington, where every rustle, every shadow, and every chilling whisper may be something far older and darker than you can imagine. Hello, dear listener. Welcome to a night of shadows, echoes, and whispers. I hope you are somewhere safe and comfortable, maybe sitting quietly with headphones on, because tonight we explore the haunted forest trails of Washington, where the towering trees hide more than just wildlife, where every footstep might be watched, and where the dead linger among the living. Some trails are completely silent, yet whispers drift across the paths. Some campsites are empty, yet tents sway as if someone unseen moves among them. Some hikers report figures darting between trees, just beyond sight, appearing only in the corner of the eye. And some say if you follow these trails at night, you might hear your own name called softly, carried on the wind. Before we step into the forest, tell me in the comments, if you had to hike one of these haunted trails at night, would you walk boldly into the darkness or hide quietly, hoping nothing notices you? Take a deep breath. The forest awaits. Mount Rainier National Park is a place of breathtaking beauty. Towering peaks rise above verdant forests. Glaciers glint in the sun. Trails wind through meadows carpeted with wildflowers. Hikers come from all over the world seeking adventure and solitude. Yet, amid the awe and wonder, there are stories that hint at something far stranger. Then the park's natural beauty. Visitors report seeing a figure dressed in old hiking clothes, moving silently along trails where no one else appears. At first, it seems like a distant hiker, framed against the mountains or fading among the trees. But as observers approach, the figure vanishes, leaving behind no footprints or signs that anyone was ever there. The presence is fleeting, yet unmistakable, and it has been described with startling consistency by those who have encountered it. Some say the figure wears clothing from decades past. A faded jacket, woolen socks, and a hat that seems almost out of place against modern hiking gear. It walks with purpose, following the curves of the trail, pausing at scenic overlooks or resting briefly near small streams. Its movements are natural, deliberate, and eerily calm, as if it belongs entirely to the landscape, yet somehow does not. The encounters are not limited to visual sightings. A sudden chill in the air, the faint rustle of clothing in the wind. Or the sound of soft footsteps on gravel when the trail is otherwise empty. Some feel a sense of being observed, a quiet awareness that someone, or something, is moving nearby even though nothing is visible. One hiker recounted a morning trek along a ridge trail. Fog rolled in from the valleys below, softening the outlines of distant peaks. A figure appeared ahead, carrying a small pack and moving steadily along the trail. The hiker called out a greeting, but the figure neither responded nor looked up. By the time they reached the spot where the figure had been, it was gone. Another visitor described a late afternoon hike when the light was fading and the shadows of the trees grew long. They saw the figure standing at the edge of a clearing, framed by the golden glow of sunset. It turned slowly, then began walking along the path parallel to them. They hurried, hoping to catch up, but by the time they reached the clearing, the figure had disappeared entirely, leaving only the gentle sound of wind in the trees. Accounts often mention a sense of timelessness. The clothing, the posture, and the way it traverses the landscape give the impression of someone rooted in another era. Some speculate that the figure may be a memory of past hikers who lost their lives in the mountains, a spirit forever walking the trails they loved. Not all encounters are visual. Some hikers hear footsteps on empty trails, the gravel crunching under invisible boots. Others report a faint whisper of movement beside them, even when the air is still. These experiences often leave a lingering impression, a quiet unease that persists even after leaving the park. Witnesses describe an awareness that something is near, watching, moving, and yet untouchable. Despite the mystery, the presence of the phantom hiker is never aggressive. There are no sudden attacks, no threatening behavior. Instead, it is enigmatic, a silent observer moving through the landscape. Its appearances seem almost ceremonial, following trails and paths as if continuing a journey interrupted long ago. Many who have encountered it report a mixture of fear and fascination, a feeling of being part of something larger and inexplicable. Mount Rainier National Park is vast and varied, from alpine meadows to dense forests, from cascading waterfalls to glacier-fed rivers. The phantom hiker has been seen in multiple areas, moving along well-traveled trails as well as more remote paths. The sightings suggest a presence that is not bound to a single location but roams the park freely, appearing to those who are attentive enough to notice. Stories of the phantom hiker have circulated among hikers, rangers, and locals for decades. Each account adds detail and texture to the legend. Some report seeing the figure at the same locations others have described, while others encounter it in entirely new places. Despite the differences, there is a consistentia, a figure dressed in old hiking clothes, moving with purpose, appearing and disappearing without trace. For many, these encounters are brief and fleeting. A glimpse in the distance, a sound that fades as quickly as it arrives. A sense of presence that cannot be explained. Yet even in these brief moments, the experience leaves a mark. Hikers speak of the park differently after seeing the figure. Aware that Mount Rainier holds more than just natural beauty. That it also harbors mysteries that cannot be fully understood. The phantom hiker of Mount Rainier National Park is a reminder of the park's history and the lives intertwined with its trails. Whether a spirit, a residual presence, or a trick of the light and imagination, the figure continues to intrigue and unsettle those who witness it. Hikers are cautioned to respect the trails, to be mindful of their surroundings, and to carry a sense of reverence for the unseen paths that may exist just beyond sight. As the sun sets behind the peaks, and the shadows lengthen, Mount Rainier continues to hold its secrets. The phantom hiker remains an enduring presence, moving silently among the trees and along the ridges. For those who encounter it, the experience is unforgettably a brush with the mysterious. A glimpse into a world that coexists with our own, quietly walking the trails of the past, present, and perhaps forever. Olympic National Park stretches across the western edge of Washington, a vast expanse of mountains, rivers, and dense forests where nature feels both alive and ancient. Among its towering pines, moss-draped firs, and shadowed valleys, hikers often speak of a subtle but unsettling presence. It begins quietly, a whisper among the needles, soft and elusive, like the wind threading through the branches. Those who wander the trails report hearing names spoken, carried on the air as if the forest itself remembers those who walk beneath its canopy. The sound is never harsh, never urgent, but gentle and insistent, curling around the ears like a memory trying to surface. Hikers pause, searching the woods for the source, but no one appears. The forest is empty, save for the rustle of leaves and the faint creak of branches swaying. As one ventures deeper, the whispers grow more distinct, sometimes forming incomplete words, phrases half-spoken, as though the forest itself speaks in fragments. There is a rhythm to the sound, a cadence that feels both familiar and foreign, drawing attention to the subtle movements around. Shadows stretch and bend between the trees, elongated by the dappled light, making it difficult to distinguish between what is solid and what is imagined. Many have described the sensation of being watched. It is not immediate, not overtly threatening, but a lingering awareness, a chill brushing the back of the neck, a presence that mirrors every step. Some hikers have stopped, calling their own name aloud to see if the whispers respond, and sometimes they do. A gentle repetition, a soft echo from nowhere, makes the air feel alive with something unseen. Paths that were previously familiar seem to change, trails twisting subtly or opening into clearings that feel slightly out of place. The sound of footsteps behind, though none appear, adds to the growing sense that the forest has a consciousness, an awareness that observes quietly, invisibly. Occasionally, the whispers are accompanied by sudden movementa, a branch shaking as if brushed by a hand, a bird taking flight with an unnatural start, or the distant splash of water in a creek where no one walks. These sounds, isolated and abrupt, draw attention to the interplay between what is real and what is imagined, heightening the tension and mystery of the park. Visitors report that the forest is not evenly haunted. Some trails remain silent, only the natural sounds of wind and wildlife filling the air. Other areas, particularly near streams, moss-covered rocks, and older sections of pine, are said to hold the strongest presence. Whispers here are clearer, more purposeful, sometimes forming the beginning of a name, a warning, or a greeting. The effect is subtle yet profound, lingering long after the hiker leaves the trail. Hikers often experience a deep sense of reflection, a weight to the silence that presses against the mind. Names and words spoken by no one evoke memories, fears, or unspoken thoughts, as if the forest is reaching into the human consciousness, brushing against memories and feelings with the gentlest touch. There is no malevolence, only observation, a quiet interaction between the living and the unseen. The environment contributes to the phenomenon. Shadows elongate at sunset, merging with darkness to create shapes and forms that seem almost animate. Even in daylight, the depth of the forest can make sounds appear closer or further away, bending perception and enhancing the sense that the pines themselves are alive and listening. Some visitors have reported encounters that go beyond whispers. A fleeting glimpse of a figure moving between the trees. A shadow that lingers for a heartbeat longer than possible. Or the sensation of being brushed by something intangible. Each of these experiences reinforces the stories of the forest's unseen inhabitants, a presence that is patient, quiet, and persistent. Despite the mystery, hikers are drawn repeatedly to the park. The whispers, the subtle presences, and the shifting paths create an allure that is difficult to resist. There is a profound beauty in the experience. A mixture of awe, fear, and curiosity that draws the visitor deeper into the forest. The sounds are not merely frightening, they are reminders of the depth, history, and unseen life of the wilderness. Those who walk the trails often leave changed, carrying the memory of whispered names and soft voices. The feeling of being watched without malice, and the awareness that the forest holds stories older than any human memory. The whispering pines of Olympic National Park remain a place where the boundaries between the seen and unseen blur. Where nature itself communicates in subtle, persistent ways, and where every step along the mossy paths becomes a dialogue with something beyond understanding. And where every step along the mossy paths becomes a dialogue with something beyond understanding. At night, the whispers continue long after hikers have left. Names echo faintly through the trees, carried on the wind. Brushing past tents and cabins. Rustling pine needles. And mingling with the distant flow of streams. Those who listen carefully may hear fragments of conversation. Fragments of the past. Or simply the forest speaking in its ancient voice. The experience is not violent. Not frightening in a traditional sense. But undeniably present. A reminder that the pines are alive in ways that humans can feel, hear, and sense. But never fully grasp. The whispering pines remain a living mystery. A part of Olympic National Park. Where the forest speaks softly. And those who walk its paths are never truly alone. Names, whispers, and subtle sounds form a haunting tapestry, reminding visitors that the wilderness is not merely a collection of trees and rivers, but a world imbued with memory, presence, and quiet observation. That the wilderness is not merely a collection of trees and rivers, but a world imbued with memory, presence, and quiet observation. Those who journey here carry the echoes of the forest with them. And even when far from the trails, they feel the whispering of the pines in their mind and in their imagination. A lasting connection to something unseen yet undeniably real. Snoqualmie Pass stretches across the Washington Cascades, a place of snow-covered peaks, dense evergreens, and winding trails that disappear into shadowed forests. By day, hikers move along its paths, admiring the rugged beauty of the mountains, the crisp air, and the distant roar of waterfalls. Yet as night falls, a different kind of presence emerges, a quiet disturbance that few can explain. Figures have been seen standing along the trail when the sun has long dipped behind the peaks. They are often motionless, blending with the dark silhouettes of the trees and rocks, their form human yet somehow indistinct. Hikers report glimpsing them from the corner of their eye, only to turn and find empty trail. These figures vanish when approached. Step forward to greet them or investigate, and the space they occupied is immediately vacant, leaving only the wind and the whisper of branches behind. Yet even as they disappear, the sensation lingers. Footsteps echo along the trail, matching the pace of the hiker, sounding crisp on snow or dirt. The echoes persist, sometimes for minutes, following those who dare to venture farther into the pass. The shadow walker is silent in its movements. It does not speak, it does not gesture. But the impression of being observed is strong. Hikers describe a chill that crawls along their necks, a sudden awareness of eyes upon them, and a pressure on their chest as if the presence leans just behind them. The deeper one moves into the forest, the stronger the sensation grows. The trail itself seems to guide and entrap. Trees bend overhead, forming dark corridors. And the sound of waterfalls and streams can carry strangely in the night, amplifying the rhythm of footsteps that are not Oni's own. Some travelers have paused to look back, only to see a shadow dissolve among the trees, leaving the night undisturbed but charged with energy. Reports are consistent across years and seasons. In winter, the figures appear against the stark white of snow, their forms black against the pale landscape. In summer, the shadows move through dense foliage, only glimpsed in fleeting glimpses through the trees. Daylight never reveals them, yet by nightfall, the stories surface again. Hikers startled by sounds they cannot explain, glimpses of figures that vanish when observed. The shadow walker is not aggressive. There is no indication of threat, yet the experience is unsettling. Many hikers report a heightened awareness, a sense of caution that persists long after leaving the pass. The footsteps that echo behind them fade slowly. But the memory of being followed remains, engraved in the mind as if the trail itself remembers. Some tell of repeated encounters. One recalls leaving their camp, feeling the crunch of footsteps on snow behind them. They stopped, turned, and saw nothing. Minutes later, the sound continued, perfectly in sync with their pace. When they finally reached the lodge, the echo remained in their ears. A haunting reminder that the pass holds memory, or perhaps something more. The environment itself contributes to the mystery. Familiar bends and clearings transformed into corridors of uncertainty. A snapped branch or rustling leaves may be natural, but combined with the persistent footsteps, it creates a scene that is difficult to forget. Those who walk Snoqualmie Pass at night often describe the experience as otherworldly. The forest feels alive, not in the normal rhythms of wind and wildlife, but with a presence that mirrors human movement. Every snap of a twig, every rustle of leaves seems amplified. As if the shadow walker observes and responds. It does not chase, it does not touch, yet the awareness of being accompanied is unmistakable. Stories also include fleeting glances of form. Sometimes hikers catch a figure standing ahead, pale against the dark trunks of the forest. Step closer, and the figure is gone, leaving only footprints in snow or softened earth that vanish after a moment. The trail remains, silent and empty, but the memory of the encounter lingers, vivid and unsettling. The shadow walker is part of Snoqualmie Pass itself, entwined with its forests, peaks, and winding trails. The mountain air, the night sounds, and the isolation of the trail combine to make each encounter memorable. Each set of footsteps behind the hiker a reminder that the pass is never truly empty. Visitors who encounter the phenomenon report changes in perception. Time seems altered, distances exaggerated, and familiar landmarks feel subtly different. The echo of footsteps continues longer than logic allows. And the forest seems to watch as one moves through it. The experience leaves a lasting impression, a quiet unease that persists well beyond the trail. A memory of being followed by something that is unseen but undeniably present. Snoqualmie Pass at night is a place of natural beauty transformed into something ethereal. The shadow walker is neither cruel nor violent, but it embodies the mystery of the wilderness. It walks the trails quietly, leaves echoes behind, and reminds all who traverse its paths that the forest holds more than just trees, streams, and rocks. There is a presence that watches, that follows, and that steps in rhythm with those who dare to wander the mountain in darkness. Hikers leave the trail changed, carrying the memory of footsteps that cannot be traced. Of shadows that vanish when looked at, and the persistent sensation of being accompanied. A presence that respects no boundaries of time or space, moving silently through Snoqualmie Pass. A shadow that walks as the night deepens, a reminder that even the quietest forest can be alive with unseen observers. Rattlesnake Ledge Trail winds through the dense forests of the Pacific Northwest, a path carved into the mountainside with breathtaking views of lakes and valleys below. By day, hikers move along the trail, following its curves and enjoying the beauty of the towering trees and moss-covered rocks. The sounds of birds and rustling leaves accompany their steps, creating a serene and inviting atmosphere. But as night falls, the trail transforms into a place that feels both enchanting and unnerving, a space where the ordinary and the unexplained seem to merge. Visitors who linger on the trail after dark often report hearing the sound of a campfire crackling in the distance. The sound is unmistakable, the soft pop and snap of wood burning, the faint glow of flames dancing in the darkness. Yet when they approach the campsite, the clearing is empty. No one is there. No evidence of recent activity exists, no smoke rises from a fire pit, and the logs are cold to the touch. The sound lingers for a moment longer, then fades, leaving a strange mixture of curiosity and unease in its wake. Alongside the sounds of the phantom campfire, some hikers have reported faint singing or humming drifting through the trees. The melody is soft, barely audible over the whisper of the wind and the occasional rustle of leaves. It carries a tone of quiet sadness, almost mournful, as if someone is recalling memories long past. The singing does not follow the listener, yet it seems to come from deep within the forest, weaving through the branches and rocks, creating an otherworldly atmosphere that is both beautiful and haunting. One visitor recounted stopping at a bend in the trail late one evening, the sky dark and clouds obscuring the stars. The usual nocturnal sounds muted by the dense canopy. Suddenly, the faint crackle of a fire reached their ears. Heart racing, they followed the sound through the underbrush, only to find the clearing empty, the fire pit cold and lifeless. As they paused in confusion, a soft hum drifted from deeper in the woods, lingering briefly before dissolving into the stillness. The experience left a lingering sense of presence, an awareness that Sumania or something had been there, unseen but very real. The geography of Rattlesnake Ledge Trail contributes to the uncanny nature of these encounters. Narrow paths winding between dense trees, steep drops, and rocky outcrops create pockets where sound carries strangely. The echoes of a fire or a voice can seem closer or farther than they actually are. And the uneven terrain can cast shadows that shift and twist in the dim light, making familiar surroundings feel unfamiliar and strange. Mist often settles in low areas at night, thickening the air and adding a sense of depth and mystery to the forest. Local lore suggests that these phenomena are the result of a camper who became lost on the trail long ago. Some believe the spirit of this lost hiker remains behind, eternally tending a phantom campfire and singing softly to ward off loneliness. Others propose that the presence is residual, a replay of the events leading up to the camper's disappearance, imprinted on the landscape for those sensitive enough to notice. Regardless of the origin, the experiences are consistent. The sounds of fire and singing are reported time and again by those who venture along the trail after nightfall. The encounters are not threatening, yet they leave a profound impression. Visitors often describe a mixture of wonder and apprehension. The beauty of the forest heightened by the knowledge of a presence unseen. The soft glow of imagined flames and the faint melody of singing create a multisensory experience, blending sight, sound, and emotion in a way that feels deeply real. Each moment is fleeting, yet it remains etched in memory long after leaving the trail. Even when no sounds are heard, the trail retains its atmosphere of quiet mystery. The rustling leaves, the occasional snapping of twigs, and the shifting shadows suggest life beyond the obvious. Hikers often report heightened awareness of their surroundings, noticing the smallest details in trees, rocks, and the forest floor. The trail feels alive, not just with wildlife, but with something else, a presence woven into the very fabric of the forest. The dense trees, the winding paths, the echoes of a long-vanished camper, and the haunting melody of a phantom song create an environment that is immersive and unforgettable. As darkness deepens over Rattlesnake Ledge, the forest holds its breath. The sound of a fire crackles faintly, a soft melody drifts through the trees, and the shadows shift among the rocks and roots. Those who walk the trail after nightfall sense the presence of the lost camper. The experience leaves a lasting impression. A reminder that the forest holds memory, that the trail remembers, and that even in the stillness of night the spirit of the lost continues to echo through Rattlesnake Ledge. Mount Baker stands as one of the most striking peaks in the Pacific Northwest, its glaciers and snow-covered slopes captivating hikers and adventurers from around the world. The trails that wind through its dense forests and alpine meadows are often serene, offering glimpses of untouched wilderness and the crisp scent of pine in the air. Yet beneath the beauty lies a series of stories that send a chill far deeper than the winter winds ever could. Hikers report seeing pale figures moving through the snowy forest. At first, these figures appear distant, almost blending with the mist and the falling snow. They are described as ghostly silhouettes, appearing translucent against the white landscape, moving with a quiet purpose along trails that have seen generations of footsteps. Their presence is subtle but undeniable, often leaving those who see them questioning what is real and what is imagined. Some hikers have described feeling icy hands brush their arms or shoulders as they walk. It is not a gentle touch but a sudden, cold awareness that something is near, moving alongside them. Yet it lingers in memory, a physical and emotional impression that heightens the sense of mystery surrounding the mountain. The ice ghost, as some call it, appears most often along the higher trails where snow is deep. Where snow is deep and the forest is dense. Hikers recount seeing the figure pause near frozen streams, standing motionless as if observing the beauty of the landscape, before vanishing into the mist. Others describe the figure moving parallel to them, keeping pace with an unnatural quietness, before disappearing as suddenly as it appeared. One hiker told of ascending a ridge during early winter, when the air was thin and the wind carried snow like fine sand. In the distance, a pale figure emerged, moving through the trees. As the hiker drew closer, they felt a sudden chill on their shoulder, a touch icy enough to make them shiver. When they turned, the figure had vanished entirely. The surrounding snow showed no footprints, no evidence anyone had passed, yet the memory of the encounter remained vivid. Another account comes from a solo trekker navigating a trail bordered by tall evergreens. The snow muffled every sound except the hikara's own steps. Suddenly, a figure appeared through the falling snow, almost blending into the white landscape. It moved slowly, deliberately, its form seeming both human and ethereal. The hiker called out, but there was no response. Moments later, the figure disappeared behind a cluster of pines, leaving only a faint sense of presence lingering in the cold air. The ice ghost has been reported in various forms. Some see it as a complete figure, shrouded in a flowing cloak of snow and mist. While others describe it as a headless silhouette, a shadow that moves against the white expanse of the forest. Despite differences in descriptions, the accounts share consistent elements. The figure is pale, moves silently, and leaves no trace. It is both haunting and elusive, always there but never fully seen. The ice ghost has been reported in various forms. Hikers have also reported subtle auditory phenomena in the presence of the ice ghost. Footsteps crunch lightly on snow that appears undisturbed. Faint whispers ride the wind through the trees. And sometimes the distant sound of ice breaking or water running beneath a frozen stream is louder than it should be. These sensory experiences create an atmosphere that is at once beautiful and unsettling, reminding visitors that the mountain is alive with history and mystery. The legends of Mount Baker trails are not recent. Stories have circulated for decades, shared among hikers, rangers, and locals. Some speculate the ice ghost may be the spirit of a hiker lost in the snow long ago, wandering the trails in search of the way back. Others suggest it is a manifestation of the mountain itself, a presence born from the glaciers and the wind, tied to the landscape in ways humans cannot fully understand. Despite the eerie encounters, the ice ghost is not considered hostile. Hikers report no harm, only a sense of being observed, of being part of something beyond ordinary experience. There is a quiet intensity to the presence, a reminder of the mountain's power and the fragility of human presence within it. Those who experience it often describe a mixture of fear and awe, a recognition that nature holds secrets that cannot be explained. Mount Baker trails are vast, with terrain that ranges from dense forested valleys to open alpine slopes. The ice ghost appears in multiple areas, sometimes near treelines, sometimes in isolated groves or along the edges of frozen streams. Its presence suggests a being that is not bound to one trail or location but moves freely through the mountain, appearing to those who are observant, patient, or perhaps simply fortunate. Encounters often leave a lasting impression. Hikers speak of feeling the mountain differently after seeing the figure, aware that its trails are not merely paths through nature, but corridors through history, memory, and mystery. The figure may vanish as quickly as it appears. Yet its influence remains, coloring every sound of wind through the trees, every shadow cast across the snow. The ice ghost of Mount Baker reminds us that the wilderness holds more than beauty. It carries echoes of those who have passed, whispers of history, and a presence that defies explanation. To walk the trails is to be part of something larger, a connection to the land and to the stories it carries, visible only to those who are willing to see and feel the unseen. As snow falls softly across the trails, and the wind whispers through the pines, the ice ghost moves silently, brushing past hikers, leaving no trace but a memory of cold, of mystery, and of the mountain's eternal watch. Those who encounter it speak of it quietly, knowing that some secrets of Mount Baker trails are meant to be felt rather than explained, forever walking the fine line between the living world and the ghostly presence of the past. Lake Crescent lies nestled within the Olympic National Park, its dark waters reflecting the towering evergreens that surround it. Mist often hovers above the lake in the early morning, curling between the trunks like smoke. It is along these quiet trails that hikers have reported seeing a figure in white, a woman who seems part of the forest and yet distinctly separate from it. She appears without warning, gliding along the path or pausing near the water's edge. Her dress is pale, blending with the mist, flowing as if moved by a wind that touches no one else. She does not speak or gesture, yet her presence is unmistakable. Those who glimpse her feel a strange mixture of awe and unease, a sense that she exists both here and elsewhere, tethered to the lake yet just beyond understanding. When approached, she vanishes. There is no sudden rush or startling departure, only the faintest impression that she has stepped out of sight. On the damp soil, footprints sometimes remain. They are delicate, fleeting, and unlike any ordinary tracks. They appear for a moment and then fade, absorbed into the earth as if the ground itself remembers her passage, recording what the eyes cannot always see. Visitors report that the woman appears most often at dusk or in the soft light of morning. The lake at these times is silent except for the occasional call of a loon or the gentle lapping of water against the shore. The forest surrounding the trail seems to hold its breath, amplifying the effect of her presence. Shadows lengthen and merge, leaves stir with an unseen breeze, and every sound feels sharpened as though the lake itself listens. Some hikers describe a sensation of being watched before seeing her. It is subtle, a pressure in the chest or a chill along the spine, a quiet awareness that they are not alone. Then, in a clearing or along a narrow path, she appears. Her movements are graceful and unhurried. There is no fear in her expression, only a stillness that both comforts and unnerves. She is part of the landscape, yet she stands apart, a fleeting witness to those who wander too close. The stories of the lady in white vary. Some say she was a bride lost in the lake, forever searching for a lover who never returned. Others suggest she is a guardian of the forest, watching over travelers and guiding them without words. Regardless of her origin, her presence leaves an impression that lingers long after she disappears. Hikers speak of a memory that clings, a sense of wonder, and the echo of something unseen moving silently through the trees. Occasionally, she appears near the water rather than on the trails. Her reflection can be glimpsed in the dark surface, pale and indistinct. Those who stare too long report the reflection fading before their eyes, leaving only the calm surface of the lake. Some have felt a cool breeze pass over them, carrying the faint scent of wet earth or pine. As if the lake exhales the memory of her presence. Encounters with the lady in white are not frightening, though they are undeniably eerie. There is no sudden movement or violent action, no attempt to harm. The sensation is gentle, almost melancholic. She seems bound to the trails and the lake, a spirit caught between this world and another. Her presence is a reminder of the age and depth of the forest, the stillness of the lake, and the stories carried by both over decades and centuries. Hikers who experience her often speak of being guided, whether consciously or unconsciously, along the trails. The path seems easier to navigate, shadows appear less threatening. And there is a strange comfort in knowing that someone or something watches without judgment. The lady in white is not a figure to be chased or captured. She is a presence to be witnessed, a quiet mystery that the forest and lake guard closely. The lake and surrounding forest seem to respond to her existence. Animals pause in the undergrowth, birds cease their song, and even the wind seems to soften. Light filters differently through the trees, shadows stretch with unusual intent, and the mist drifts slowly, carrying the echoes of footsteps that vanish almost immediately. It is as if the natural world acknowledges her, bending around her presence in subtle, almost imperceptible ways. Even after she disappears, the feeling of her presence lingers. Hikers leave the trails with the memory of pale fabric drifting along mossy paths. Footprints absorbed into wet soil. And the faint sense that someone walked beside them for just a moment. The lady in white does not chase, speak, or beckon. But her impression is lasting, etched into the mind of those who have seen her. And into the damp earth of the trails she haunts. Lake Crescent remains a place of deep quiet and beauty, where the forest, water, and mist come together to create an atmosphere that feels alive and ancient. The lady in white is part of this, an ephemeral figure, whose story is written in the trails, in the whispers of the trees, and in the ripple of the lake. She embodies the mystery of the forest and the lake. A gentle reminder that some presences remain, even when unseen. Guiding and observing, just beyond reach, leaving only the faintest traces. For those who notice. Her appearances continue, mostly at the edges of perception. Hikers and visitors come and go, yet she remains, a timeless part of the environment. Faint footprints, fleeting glimpses of white, and the feeling of being accompanied without a companion all serve as evidence of her quiet vigilance. She is a presence intertwined with the lake and the forest, a story told not in words but in the delicate traces of her passing. A reminder of the unseen layers that exist in the world around us. In Lake Crescent, the lady in white is more than legend. She is part of the landscape, a gentle observer, a quiet companion on the trails. Her story is woven into the mist, the soil, and the shadows between the trees. Those who encounter her leave carrying the memory, a subtle connection to the mysteries of the forest. A fleeting but unforgettable presence that reminds them the wilderness holds secrets beyond what the eyes can see. The Carbon River Trail winds through dense forest, a path of moss-covered roots, towering evergreens, and the quiet murmur of the river alongside. By day, hikers enjoy the natural beauty, the scent of wet earth, and the occasional flutter of birds. Yet as darkness falls, the trail takes on a different character. Travelers speak of a presence that follows, a creature both familiar and impossible. It begins with sounds that should have a source. The call seems close, then distant, circling hikers as they move along the trail. Footsteps, sharp and rhythmic, clatter against the forest floor, as if claws strike the dirt with every step. Yet when hikers stop, the forest is empty, silent except for the soft rustle of leaves. Some have seen the phantom dog. A shadowy figure, low to the ground, moving just beyond the edge of vision. Its shape is canine, yet its edges blur into darkness, impossible to focus on. The dog does not bark in these moments, only observes, a quiet presence that moves with purpose. Eyes gleam faintly, reflecting what little moonlight filters through the canopy. When approached, the figure disappears. Hikers have stepped forward, expecting to encounter a Rayal dog. Only to find empty trail, paw prints that fade into nothingness. And the sense of being followed still presses at their back. Yet the sound of claws on the dirt continues. As if the phantom dog exists just out of reach, walking parallel to the world of the living. The trail itself seems to respond to its presence. Shadows stretch unnaturally along the mossy roots, and fog gathers in patches that obscure vision. The sound of barking or growling will echo from a corner of the forest where there is no path, creating the impression that the dog is moving in and out of reality, always nearby, always watching. Hikers often report a growing unease, a sensation of being accompanied even when the trail seems empty. Encounters vary. Some describe the dog as small and compact, resembling an ordinary companion animal. Others see a larger, more menacing form, tall and spectral, moving silently over the trail with impossible speed. Its fur seems dark and shifting, blending into shadows. In all cases, it disappears when confronted, leaving behind only the echo of claws or a faint, lingering scent of damp earth and something wild. The sounds are as telling as the sight. Barking comes in bursts, sometimes frantic, sometimes slow and deliberate. The clatter of claws on dirt or roots is steady, measured, and oddly rhythmic. Even when the forest falls silent, hikers feel the pressure of a presence moving in sync with their pace, just behind or beside them. Footfalls continue without substance, reminding those on the trail that they are not alone. Some hikers have attempted to interact with the phantom dog. Calling its name, throwing sticks, or attempting to follow it into the trees yields no result. It will vanish, as if slipping between the physical world and some unseen dimension. Reports describe feelings of cold brushing against legs or ankles, a sense of weight that is not there. The trail becomes a corridor of tension, where every rustle and echo is amplified into a sign of the dog's presence. The mystery persists across seasons. In summer, shadows deepen in the thick canopy, and the dog moves along trails obscured by ferns and moss. In winter, the snow softens the sound of its steps, yet hikers still report claw marks appearing briefly in the frost, only to vanish as the wind shifts. Daylight offers no encounters, only the memory of footsteps, barking, and a figure seen from the corner of the eye that dissolves when observed. Those who encounter the phantom dog speak of its intelligence. It seems aware of the movements of hikers, adjusting its pace to remain just behind or alongside. It does not attack, yet the feeling of being followed is persistent, a quiet pressure that unsettles even the most experienced hikers. The presence is aware, deliberate, and undeniably real to those who experience it. Stories include hikers who reach trailheads feeling exhausted despite a short walk. The pressure of an unseen companion, combined with the unnerving echoes of footsteps and barking, creates a lasting impression. Footprints, fleeting glimpses of dark shapes, and the sound of claws scraping over rocks or roots linger in memory, shaping the experience into something that feels both natural and impossible. The Carbon River Trail holds the phantom dog as an unseen guardian of the night. It moves silently through the forest, crossing paths with hikers, sometimes revealing itself in glimpses or sounds, always vanishing when observed. Its presence reminds those who walk the trail that the forest is not empty, that shadows can move with intent, and that the night carries companions that are not entirely of this world. Visitors leave the trail changed, with the memory of soft barking, the echo of claws, and the fleeting glimpse of a shadowy figure. The echo of claws, and the fleeting glimpse of a shadowy figure. And the fleeting glimpse of a shadowy figure. It is a reminder that the Carbon River Trail holds mysteries that defy explanation, where echoes of the unseen move through the trees, always in step with those who walk in the night. Where echoes of the unseen move through the trees, always in step with those who walk in the night. Always in step with those who walk in the night. Wallace Falls Trail winds through the lush forests of Washington, following the course of streams and rivulets that tumble into sparkling waterfalls. By day, the trail is alive with the sounds of rushing water, birdsong, and the rustle of leaves underfoot. Hikers pass one another along narrow paths, pausing to admire the cascades and the surrounding greenery. The trail is known for its natural beauty, but as night falls, it transforms into a place where the ordinary world feels thin, and the presence of something unseen becomes palpable. Those who venture along Wallace Falls Trail in the evening have reported sightings of ghostly figures, often appearing as a couple walking together. The figures are faint, almost translucent, yet unmistakably human in shape and posture. They move slowly along the path, side by side, appearing as if engaged in quiet conversation or sharing the simple comfort of one another's presence. The atmosphere surrounding them feels charged with emotion, a mix of serenity and melancholy that sets them apart from the living hikers on the trail. Observers describe a moment of awe as they first notice the figures in the distance. The couple moves with deliberate grace, their forms outlined against the forest backdrop, slightly blurred by the dimming light. There is a rhythm to their movement, synchronized and calm, as if they are moving through a space that exists in parallel to the trail hikers walk. The effect is hauntingly beautiful, a scene frozen in time yet subtly dynamic, alive with the motion of the unseen. When hikers approach the figures, the experience becomes even more surreal. The couple does not react to attention, nor do they acknowledge the presence of observers. Yet as the distance closes, they begin to dissolve into mist, their forms thinning and dispersing into the humid forest air. Within moments, they vanish completely, leaving behind only the soft whisper of leaves and the distant roar of the falls. Witnesses often describe a lingering impression, a feeling that the trail itself has retained the memory of the couple's passage, even in their absence. One hiker recalled walking along the trail at dusk, the fading light casting long shadows between the trees. Ahead, a faint glow appeared where the path curved around a rocky outcrop. As they drew nearer, the ethereal shapes of two figures became visible, moving hand in hand along the trail. The hiker slowed, mesmerized by the peacefulness and elegance of the scene. But as they stepped forward to get closer, the figures began to blur, dissolving into the mist with the sound of soft water cascading nearby filling the sudden silence. The hiker was left standing alone. Yet the presence lingered in memory. Vivid and unshakable. The mist that rises near the waterfalls and the dense forest canopy contribute to the illusion and the mystery of the sightings. Shadows stretch and shift in the fading light. And fog can collect along the trail in pockets, making shapes appear and disappear unexpectedly. The natural environment amplifies the ethereal effect, giving the impression that the couple is both part of the forest and separate from it, existing in a space between reality and something otherworldly. Local lore suggests that the vanishing couple may be spirits bound to the trail, their story lost to time. Some say they were hikers who vanished under tragic circumstances and now appear together in the forest they loved. Others believe the figures are manifestations of memory, a residual echo of those who walked the trail long ago, their presence replayed for those who are attentive and open to the unknown. Regardless of origin, the reports are consistent. The couple appears, moves, and then fades, leaving an impression that transcends the ordinary. The experience of seeing the vanishing couple is both unsettling and profound. The figures are not threatening, they move with calm and deliberate grace. Observers often report a heightened sense of awareness, noticing details of the trail, the rushing water, and the play of light and shadow more acutely. The forest seems alive in a way that is more than natural, imbued with layers of memory and presence that are invisible yet undeniably felt. Even when the couple does not appear, the trail retains a subtle energy. The sound of the waterfalls, the rustle of leaves, and the shifting mist create an atmosphere where the ordinary feels extraordinary. Hikers describe a quiet reverence, an awareness that the forest holds history and memory within its trees and rocks. The vanishing couple is a reminder that the world around us carries traces of the past, ephemeral yet persistent. And that even in solitude, the trail may be shared with those who no longer walk in the living world. As night settles over Wallace Falls Trail, shadows stretch across the path and mist drifts among the trees. The sound of falling water echoes through the forest, carrying a sense of timelessness. Somewhere along the trail, the ghostly figures of the couple may move silently, walking side by side, dissolving into the mist when approached, yet leaving behind a profound impression that lingers. The vanishing couple endures as a presence woven into the forest itself. A haunting and beautiful reminder that some journeys never truly end, and that the memory of those who once walked the trail can remain forever etched in the natural world. Mount Si rises majestically above the Snoqualmie Valley, its dense forests and rugged trails drawing hikers, climbers, and nature enthusiasts from across the Pacific Northwest. The mountain is a place of beauty, with mist rolling through the evergreens, waterfalls cascading down rocky slopes, and wildlife quietly observing from hidden perches. Yet beneath this natural splendor, Mount Si has long been the setting for stories that send shivers down the spine, tales whispered among hikers and locals alike about a presence that moves silently through the fog. Tales whispered among hikers and locals alike about a presence that moves silently through the fog. The presence that moves silently through the fog, its existence a mere rumor, a whispered legend among the hikers and locals. Its existence a mere rumor, a whispered legend among the hikers and locals, but one that sends shivers down the spine. Hikers have reported seeing a shadowy figure gliding through the dense mist that clings to the forest floor. It is described as tall and indistinct, its form blurred by the swirling fog, moving with deliberate steps that make no sound. The figure seems aware of the living, appearing to observe those who enter its domain, yet vanishing just as soon as it is approached. Many who encounter the mist walker find themselves disoriented. Trails that were familiar moments before suddenly twist into unfamiliar patterns. Hikers following the figure often report being led in circles, returning to the same moss-covered tree or rock formation repeatedly, unable to retrace their steps. The forest seems to shift around them, paths lengthening, twists appearing where none existed before. One hiker recounted ascending a lower ridge early in the morning, the fog thick and damp against their skin. Through the mist, they saw the shadowy figure gliding between trees, silent and fluid. Curious, they followed at a cautious distance, hoping to understand what it was. Hours passed, yet the landmarks they had memorized faded into indistinction. Each turn led them back to the same clearing, the same twisted root rising from the ground as if frozen in time. The figure remained just out of reach, guiding them deeper into the forest before dissolving into the mist. Others have experienced a similar sensation without ever glimpsing the figure itself. The fog thickens unnaturally, and the forest becomes eerily quiet. Footsteps echo where there should be none, and the faint sound of movement is heard just beyond sight. Those who encounter this phenomenon describe a feeling of being watched, of the forest itself guiding them along a path they do not wish to take. Until the mist walker decides they have seen enough. The mist walker is not considered malevolent, yet it commands a presence that is undeniable. Hikers rarely report harm, but the sense of disorientation and isolation is profound. The phenomenon seems most common during early morning and late evening, when the fog is thickest and shadows stretch unnaturally between the trees. Those who have experienced it speak of a quiet intensity, a reminder that the forest is not merely a collection of trees and rocks, but a living presence, layered with history, memory, and mystery. Legends surrounding Mount Si are as old as the trails themselves. Local stories speak of spirits tied to the mountain, entities that protect its paths or perhaps remember those who have wandered too far and never returned. The mist walker is often described in these tales, a guardian of the fog, an entity that moves silently to maintain the balance of the forest. While skeptics dismiss the sightings as tricks of light and fog, the consistency of encounters across decades lends a haunting credibility to the stories. Hikers who have ventured alone into the dense mist often recount the same chilling sequence. A sudden awareness of another presence, a shadow moving just beyond the tree line. And then the creeping realization that the trail they followed is no longer the trail they know. Objects once familiar are the twisted roots of trees, the curve of a rocky inclinea appear in unfamiliar positions. Time seems to bend, footsteps echo strangely. And the forest itself seems to respond to the unseen guide. Some encounters extend beyond disorientation. Hikers report hearing soft whispers in the fog. Words carried on the wind that are indistinct yet unnervingly human. Occasionally, the figure appears to pause, as if studying the intruder in its domain. Before resuming its silent path. The encounter leaves a lasting impression. An awareness that Mount Si is alive with unseen eyes and that the mist walker moves where the living cannot always follow. Despite these eerie experiences, the trails remain popular. The beauty of Mount Si draws adventurers seeking exercise, views, and solitude. Yet those who are aware of the stories approach with caution. They speak quietly among themselves, avoid straying too far into thick fog, and respect the mountain's hidden inhabitants. Many leave feeling humbled, a mixture of awe and trepidation accompanying the memory of the mist walker's silent guidance. The mountain itself seems to participate in the mystery. Fog rolls down valleys without wind, shadows twist unnaturally among the trees, and the scent of damp earth grows stronger in certain patches. Even without a visible figure, hikers can sense an unseen presence, an awareness that something watches, moves, and guides silently through the forest. An awareness that something watches, moves, and guides silently through the forest. Something watches, moves, and guides silently through the forest. For some, the mist walker is a fleeting encounter, a glimpse of shadow and movement through morning fog. For others, it is a profound experience of disorientation and wonder, a reminder that nature holds secrets beyond human understanding. The forest is beautiful and dangerous, inviting and mysterious, alive with forces that cannot be explained by logic alone. Mount Si and its trails continue to captivate hikers, but for those who have experienced the mist walker, every hike carries a subtle tension, a respect for the forest and its unseen inhabitants. The shadowy figure remains elusive, a silent guide in the fog, a presence that reminds all who encounter it that the wilderness holds stories that cannot be fully understood, only experienced. As the sun rises and the fog begins to lift, the mist walker fades from view, retreating into the dense forest. Trails reappear as they were known, and the forest returns to ordinary quiet. Yet the memory lingers of shadow, of whispers, and of a mountain that is alive in ways few can perceive. Those who have walked with the mist walker carry the experience with them. A reminder that Mount Si is more than a trail through trees. It is a realm where the living and the unseen intersect in silent, fog-bound mystery. Twin Falls cascades through the forest with a force that commands attention, its waters crashing against rocks and sending mist into the air. The roar of the falls dominates the surroundings during the day. As night falls, the sound softens, and the forest seems to hold its breath. It is during these quiet hours that visitors report an unusual phenomenon. The faint sound of singing drifting through the trees, carried along by the cool night air. The voice is soft, almost imperceptible at first, like a memory remembered only half at a time. Hikers and campers have said it grows clearer as they move closer, rising in pitch and tone, yet no one is ever visible. The source of the singing is elusive, hidden among shadows and mist, slipping between rocks and trees, leaving only the impression of presence. Those who have approached the sound describe it as hauntingly beautiful. The melody twists and flows, following the contours of the land. Wrapping around the falls, then fading when the listener pauses. It is as if the waterfall itself is infused with the voice, carrying it across the forest in undulating waves. There is a rhythm to it, a pattern that feels almost deliberate. As though someone unseen guides the song to those who listen. Many speak of a figure glimpsed in the corner of the eye, a shadow that seems to move with the singing. When looked at directly, it vanishes, leaving only the rushing water and the echoing voice. Some believe it is the spirit of a woman who drowned in the falls long ago, her song a memory of life cut short, preserved in the air and water. Others think it is the forest itself, giving shape to sound and translating memory into melody. Visitors often report a strange sensation while the singing surrounds them. A chill rises from the damp ground, and the mist settles thickly around them, carrying the smell of wet earth and moss. There is a lightness in the chest, as though the spirit is present but not threatening. The experience is immersive, it feels as if one is walking through a world layered with time, where the past and present intertwine through sound and presence. The song responds to movement. Hikers who follow the trail toward the origin of the voice find it growing louder, urging them forward. Yet when they stop, the song fades, leaving only the rush of the falls and the rustle of leaves. This interaction creates a peculiar rhythm, a call and response between the unseen singer and those who walk the forest. The melody seems to seek attention, yet only on its own terms. Some visitors have felt the ground tremble subtly underfoot, synchronized with the melody, as if the forest itself is resonating with the song. The sound is never entirely linear, it bends around rocks, disappears behind trees, and reappears from unexpected directions. It is a presence that is both everywhere and nowhere, a voice shaped by the land, reflecting the mystery and beauty of Twin Falls at night. Encounters with the singing spirit leave lasting impressions. Those who hear it describe an overwhelming sense of peace mingled with unease. The melody is not frightening, but it carries weight, as though it holds a story of sorrow, longing, and remembrance. Visitors often speak of a connection to something greater, a feeling that the falls and forest harbor a memory that is alive, waiting to be heard by those who venture into the night. Some nights, the singing stops abruptly, leaving the forest unnervingly silent except for the continuing roar of the falls. Others report the voice fading gradually, leaving behind only the echo of a single note, hanging in the air as though reluctant to depart. The unpredictability adds to the legend of Twin Falls, making every visit unique, and every encounter a personal experience shaped by time, light, and perception. Local guides tell stories passed down through generations. They speak of a woman who loved the falls, whose life ended tragically, leaving her spirit bound to the water. Her song is said to comfort and warn, to mark the boundary between the forest and the falls, and to remind visitors of the fragility of life. Some interpret the singing as a guardian of the forest, preserving the sanctity of the natural world while sharing a glimpse of something beyond the visible. The physical environment adds to the mystery. Mist clings to the trees. Moonlight glimmers off wet rocks. And the sound of the falls shifts as it moves over stones and through canyons. Every element of Twin Falls seems tuned to the presence of the singing spirit, amplifying the effect. Even the wind carries subtle notes, blending with the voice to create a layered, immersive experience that feels larger than any individual encounter. Those who linger report that the song shapes perception of time and space. Trails seem longer or shorter, rocks and trees appear in new formations. And the mind is drawn to listen for patterns within the melody. The experience is both grounding and disorienting, tying the listener to the present while simultaneously hinting at a timeless dimension. A space where the falls, forest, and spirit coexist in perfect resonance. No one can say exactly how long the singing lasts. Some hear it for minutes, others for hours, yet all who experience it carry the memory long after they leave. It is an impression rather than a sight, a haunting beauty that persists in thought and memory, like an echo that travels beyond the forest itself. Twin Falls becomes a place not just of water and stone, but of sound, presence, and the invisible threads that connect those who listen to something beyond understanding. The singing spirit of Twin Falls is more than a legend. It is a living part of the forest and waterfall, a presence felt through the senses and imagination. Those who visit with patience and quiet find themselves immersed in a melody that is ephemeral, elusive, and unforgettable. It is a reminder that nature holds secrets, that stories can live in sound, and that even in solitude, the forest is never entirely silent. For those who come seeking the falls at night, the experience is a gift and a warning. Approach with care and respect. Listen with attention. And be prepared to feel the presence of something unseen. The singing of Twin Falls is a story without words. A memory without form. A spirit without boundaries. Lingering in the mist and echoing forever through the canyon and forest. The Natchez Peak Loop winds through dense forests, open meadows, and jagged ridges, offering hikers breathtaking views of snow-capped peaks and quiet alpine lakes. By day, the trail is alive with the sounds of birdsong, rustling leaves, and the occasional chatter of fellow hikers. Yet as dusk settles and shadows stretch across the forest floor, the atmosphere changes, and the legend of the Phantom Ranger comes alive. Hikers have reported glimpses of figures dressed in old ranger uniforms, moving along the trails with a sense of purpose. These figures are often seen from the corner of the eye, standing tall, their posture rigid and disciplined. When observers turn fully to look, the figures vanish, leaving only the whisper of the wind through the pines and the faint imprint of footsteps on soft soil. It is not just the sight of these spectral rangers that unsettles visitors. Many report hearing faint whistles echoing through the trees, a sound that carries across meadows and ridges as if calling to someone long gone. Sometimes, old orders are spoken, soft and commanding, drifting between the trees in voices that seem to emerge from the mist itself. Words like move forward, stay alert, or follow the trail resonate in the quiet forest, but when hikers respond or search for a source, there is nothing but empty trail and the distant call of a crow. The appearances of the phantom ranger are unpredictable. Some hikers catch glimpses at dawn, when fog drapes the peaks in a gray veil, and sunlight barely penetrates the dense canopy. Others see the figure at dusk, when long shadows make shapes shift and stretch across the path. The ranger seems bound to the trail, moving with purpose yet remaining just out of reach, always observing but never directly engaging. Encounters vary. Some hikers see a solitary figure standing beside a trail marker, silent and still, staring toward the peaks as if scanning for a party long gone. Others report groups of figures marching along ridges or crossing meadows, uniforms crisp and movements precise, yet dissolving into the air when approached. In every case, the feeling of being watched or followed lingers long after the figure has disappeared. The soundscape of these encounters adds to the unease. Whistles pierce the silence unexpectedly, sometimes high and sharp, sometimes low and mournful. Commands are repeated with clarity, yet they feel out of time, echoes of training exercises from decades past. Footsteps sound on soil, gravel, or fallen pine needles, yet no one is seen. Hikers speak of hearing the crunch of boots behind them for minutes, only to turn and find the trail empty. Some claim the phantom ranger is tied to events from the past. Stories suggest that rangers once patrolled these peaks rigorously, guiding hikers, protecting wildlife, and ensuring safety in a rugged and unpredictable wilderness. The spectral figures may be echoes of those rangers, continuing their duties even after death, bound to the trails they once knew intimately. They appear vigilant, alert to movement, their presence a reminder of the care and discipline of a time when the mountains were less visited and far more dangerous. The ranger's presence seems attuned to those who travel the trails. Hikers who wander off path, who move carelessly or without awareness, often report closer encounters. Commands are directed at them, whistles sharp and insistent. Conversely, those who move with respect and attention often glimpse only the faintest shadow, hear only the softest echo, and feel a subtle, almost protective presence. It is as if the phantom ranger judges the intentions of those who walk the trail. Even when not seen, hikers report a persistent sense of being accompanied. The wind carries more than leaves and pine needles. Shadows seem to move with intention, and faint footsteps fall in sync with their own. Some describe fleeting shapes glimpsed through fog or between tree trunks, figures that disappear as soon as the mind focuses. The forest seems alive with history, memory, and vigilance, a space where the past persists alongside the present. Encounters leave lasting impressions. Hikers speak of feeling a cold brush on the back of the neck. The pressure of unseen eyes. The fleeting scent of earth and pine carried on a sudden breeze. Some leave the trail unsettled, aware of a presence that is disciplined, precise, and observant. The phantom ranger does not harm but reminds visitors that the wilderness holds both beauty and mystery. And that those who walk these trails are never truly alone. The legend endures because the trail itself is timeless. Seasons pass, snow melts and returns, wildflowers bloom, and the forests shift. Yet the reports remain consistent. The figure in old ranger garb, the commands whispered in the wind. The distant echo of boots on the trail, all of these persist, shaping a narrative of vigilance and quiet authority. The phantom ranger embodies the spirit of the mountains. A sentinel who moves through time, bound to the peaks and trails of Natchez Peak Loop. Visitors leave with a sense of respect, awe, and lingering wonder. Even those who see nothing feel the presence, a subtle pressure or awareness. As they descend to the trailhead, The legend reminds hikers that the mountains hold stories beyond the visible, histories encoded in the land itself. And companions who watch silently as travelers pass. The Phantom Ranger is a guardian, a spectral reminder that the wilderness remembers, observes, and endures. In the quiet of Natchez Peak Loop, as mist rises from alpine lakes and wind sweeps through the pines, the figure of the ranger moves silently among the trails. Some see him, some hear him, and some simply feel his presence. Across the years, across seasons, he remains, a shadow of duty and vigilance. For those who walk the trails at dawn or dusk, aware of the past and attentive to the present, the Phantom Ranger serves as a spectral guide, a witness to every step taken along the timeless path of the mountains. Mount Townsend rises sharply above the surrounding valleys, its slopes draped in dense evergreen forests and rocky outcrops. By day, the mountain is a place of breathtaking views, where hikers follow trails winding through fir and cedar, pausing to admire distant peaks and the valley below. The sounds of birds, whine through the trees, and distant waterfalls accompany each step. Yet when night falls, Mount Townsend transforms into a place that feels alive with unseen presence, a space where the natural world seems entwined with something beyond human perception. Hikers who traverse the trails after dusk often report a disquieting sensation, the feeling of being watched. Many describe glimpsing a figure in the distance, always just beyond clarity, moving silently among the trees. It is not visible in the conventional sense, more of a shadow, a presence that keeps pace with the observer, maintaining a distance yet staying close enough to be felt. The figure follows with deliberate patience, unseen yet undeniably present. The forest amplifies this sensation. Branches snap underfoot, not from the hikers themselves but from somewhere beyond vision. Footsteps echo through the trees, though no one is visible when the path is examined. The sounds are irregular, never synchronized with the hikera's own steps, giving the impression of a separate entity moving purposefully through the forest. Hikers describe a sudden chill, a sense of being tracked, and an adrenaline that heightens every sense. Shadows appear to shift in unnatural ways, and the forest seems to lean inward, amplifying the feeling that the trails are being observed. One hiker recounted ascending the northern trail late one evening. The sun had already dipped below the horizon, leaving the forest steeped in twilight. The air was cool and still, yet each step felt heavier, as if the mountain itself were aware of their presence. As they rounded a bend, a faint rustle came from the trees behind them, followed by the distant crack of a branch. Glancing back, there was nothing but darkness and silhouettes of fir trees. Yet the feeling of eyes upon them lingered. A presence moving silently along the trail. Echoing each step, never approaching but never leaving. The shadow hunter, as it has come to be known, is rarely seen clearly. Witnesses describe it as a dark, indistinct form, sometimes towering, sometimes blending seamlessly with the forest. It moves with purpose, never hurried, yet always attentive. Instead, it observes, follows, and disappears when confronted. Its presence is both unsettling and mesmerizing, a reminder of the wilderness's unknown depths and the thin veil between the natural and the inexplicable. The terrain of Mount Townsend contributes to these experiences. Mist often settles in low areas at night, further obscuring the forest floor and making shapes appear where none exist. The echoes of movement, combined with the isolation of the trails, heighten the sense that the mountain is inhabited by unseen watchers. Every snapping twig, shifting shadow, and rustle of leaves becomes amplified, merging perception and imagination into a vivid experience. Local lore suggests that the shadow hunter may be a guardian of the mountain, a spirit or entity tied to the land watching over those who enter its domain. Some believe it represents lost souls, others see it as an echo of ancient travelers who once roamed these forests. Hikers speak of the figure as patient and calculating, appearing only when they are deep in the trails, ensuring that visitors feel the weight and presence of the wilderness. The stories vary, yet the consistency of reports across decades gives the phenomenon an enduring reputation. The encounters leave hikers with a complex mix of fear and wonder. The figure's silence and deliberate movement create an atmosphere of tension. Yet there is also an undeniable beauty to the experience. Observers report heightened awareness, noticing details of the forest that might otherwise be missed. The texture of moss on rocks, the pattern of moonlight filtering through trees, the faint smell of pine and earth. Each step becomes part of a narrative, a shared moment with something unseen, moving alongside yet apart. Even after leaving Mount Townsend, the sense of the shadow hunter lingers. Witnesses describe a persistent feeling of being followed, a shadow in peripheral vision. Or the faint echo of footsteps in quiet moments. The forest seems to retain memory, preserving the sensation of presence and observation. Long after the hiker has descended. This enduring impression creates a connection between the observer and the mountain. A recognition that the trails are not entirely empty. And that the wilderness carries its own consciousness. Mount Townsend remains a place where the ordinary and the extraordinary intersect. The dense forest, the rocky trails, the snapping branches, and the echoing footsteps combine to form an environment that is immersive, alive, and charged with unseen presence. Hikers who traverse the mountain after dark encounter more than wilderness, they encounter the watchful patience of the shadow hunter, a reminder that some corners of the natural world are alive with entities beyond ordinary comprehension. As night deepens and the mist drifts through the forest, the shadow hunter moves silently along the trails, a dark form among the trees. Branches snap, footsteps echo, and the air seems to pulse with presence. Those who traverse Mount Townsend at night may feel its gaze, a careful, patient awareness. And the memory of that encounter lingers long after the trail ends. The shadow hunter endures, a silent observer of the forest, reminding all who enter that some places hold secrets that watch, follow, and vanish without a trace. Heather Lake lies nestled among the evergreen forests, its surface often still and glassy, reflecting the sky above like a perfect mirror. By day, it is a serene destination for hikers, anglers, and nature lovers, drawn to the calm waters and the soft rustle of wind through the surrounding pines. Yet as evening falls and shadows lengthen across the lake, Heather Lake takes on a different character. A quiet tension settles over the water, and those who linger too long speak of strange occurrences that cannot be explained by wind, wildlife, or imagination alone. Visitors often describe a pale figure appearing at the water's edge. It is faint and indistinct, more suggestion than form, yet undeniably human in shape. Some say the figure seems to drift above the surface of the lake rather than walk along its shore. Its movements are deliberate and measured, as if searching for something lost long ago. The haunting begins subtly. A hiker may hear splashing in the water when no one is swimming. At first, it is almost dismissible, perhaps a fish breaking the surface, a branch falling from a nearby tree. Yet the sound continues, rhythmic and purposeful, as if someone is moving through the water deliberately. The splashes come in soft, echoing bursts that seem to follow the edge of the lake, circling unseen. Footprints have been reported appearing along the shore, leading directly into the lake. They are precise and human in shape, as if someone has walked deliberately to the water. And yet when onlookers approach, the footprints vanish beneath the surface, leaving no trace behind. Those who have encountered this phenomenon describe a sensation of unease, a chill that rises from the water itself and brushes against their skin. Some visitors have glimpsed the figure more clearly, a pale, almost translucent shape that lingers just beyond reach. Its features are indistinct, blurred as if the air itself obscures them. Observers often feel an invisible presence pressing upon their attention, as if the figure expects recognition or seeks assistance. Attempts to call out, to ask what it wants, are met with silence, though the splashes and ripples continue relentlessly. The legend of the drowned spirit of Heather Lake has persisted for decades, whispered among locals and travelers alike. Stories speak of a young woman who disappeared into the lake under tragic circumstances, her body never recovered. The spirit is thought to linger at the water's edge, retracing the final steps of her life, eternally searching for a way to return to land. The figure is never malevolent, yet it exerts an undeniable pull, compelling observers to acknowledge its presence and to feel the weight of the Lochia's hidden history. Hikers who have experienced the haunting often describe the surrounding forest growing unnaturally quiet. The usual chorus of birds, frogs, and insects falls silent as if the lake itself commands stillness. The temperature drops suddenly, a damp chill that seeps into clothing and skin. Even the wind seems to cease, leaving a profound and unsettling calm. In these moments, the drowned spirit is most often seen, gliding along the shore or standing motionless in shallow water, waiting. Those who approach the figure carefully report a subtle awareness. A sense that the spirit observes them as much as they observe it. Some have recounted feeling a gentle pull, as if the water itself guides them toward the lake, coaxing them to step closer to where the footprints vanish beneath the surface. Yet the figure always disappears before direct contact can occur, leaving only a rippling reflection on the water, and the echo of splashes as if the lake itself has exhaled. Even at a distance, the presence is striking, giving the figure an ethereal quality that is difficult to comprehend. The haunting is not limited to sight alone. Some report hearing faint whispers or soft sighs, carried across the lake by the wind. Others feel a gentle brush against their hands or shoulders, as if the spirit reaches out briefly before retreating beneath the water. The sounds are fleeting, never clear enough to discern words, yet they create the impression of a presence communicating in a language only the lake understands. Others feel a presence that creates the impression of a presence communicating in a language only the lake understands. Others feel a presence that creates the impression of a presence communicating in a language only the lake understands. The sounds are fleeting, never clear enough to discern words, yet they create the impression of a presence communicating in a language only the lake understands. The presence remains, and the sounds continue to haunt the lake. The presence remains, and the sounds continue to haunt the lake. The presence remains, and the sounds continue to haunt the lake. Despite the eerie reports, Heather Lake remains a destination for hikers and campers. Those who visit often come prepared for solitude, drawn to the natural beauty of the forest and the lake. Yet for those aware of the stories, a walk along the shore at dusk carries a subtle tension, a mix of anticipation and respect for the unseen presence that watches from the edge of the water. The drowned spirit of Heather Lake leaves a lasting impression on all who encounter it. Observers speak of a haunting beauty, a reminder that some places are not merely landscapes but repositories of memory, grief, and lingering presence. The figure appears, moves, and disappears, yet the impression it leaves endures, long after the splashes fade and the footprints vanish beneath the surface. The drowned spirit of Heather Lake leaves a lasting impression on all who encounter it. As night falls completely, the lake returns to its quiet state. The forest exhales, and the water reflects only moonlight and stars. Yet those who have witnessed the pale figure know that the drowned spirit remains, a guardian of the lake and a living memory of those lost to its depths. Heather Lake continues to be a place of calm beauty by day. Yet by night, it is a realm where the line between the living and the spectral blurs, and where the drowned spirit quietly waits, retracing steps that time cannot erase. Dirty Harry Trail winds through dense forest and rugged terrain, a path both steeped in natural beauty and shadowed by whispered tales of the Lantern Man. Hikers and night travelers speak of a glowing light moving with purpose along the trail after dusk, a solitary lantern that floats above the ground as though carried by a presence unseen. The first sighting is often subtle. A faint glow appears between trees, shifting slowly among the shadows. The glow is steady, inviting, yet impossible to catch. Those who approach describe a chill in the air, a sudden drop in temperature, and the faint smell of smoke clinging to the breeze. The lantern seems alive, almost sentient, responding to movement as if aware of the observer. As one follows the light, the forest seems to transform. Branches arch overhead like hands. Shadows lengthen unnaturally. And the narrow trail twists into corridors of darkness. The lantern hovers just beyond reach, always ahead, illuminating the mist in its warm glow. Its light reflects off dew-laden leaves and the slick surface of rocks, creating a mesmerizing and disorienting effect. Those who have pursued it speak of the eerie silence that follows. No owls call, no wind stirs, and even the distant rustle of animals seems to pause. When the observer quickens their pace, the light retreats, maintaining a careful distance, teasing the mind with the hope of reaching it. The scent of smoke grows stronger as the lantern drifts closer, but there is never a source. It is subtle, almost nostalgic, reminding some of a campfire long extinguished. Others feel a prickling on their skin, a sense of eyes upon them even when they see nothing. The lantern seems to hold an intention, guiding, warning, or perhaps playing, and its purpose remains unknowable. When one attempts to get too close, the phenomenon vanishes. The lantern disappears instantly, leaving only the lingering aroma of smoke. And the impression that something had been standing just beyond perception. Those who experience this often describe a sense of dislocation, a brief disconnect from reality as if time itself paused in the forest. Several theories surround the lantern man. Some locals believe it is the spirit of an old trail keeper, forever patrolling the path to guide or protect travelers. Others claim it is a restless soul, condemned to wander, drawing curious eyes into the night, without ever allowing them to approach. Hikers report a mixture of fear and awe, as though the lantern carries a warning more than a threat, insisting respect for the wilderness and the unseen. The trail's natural features add to the mystery. Rocks jut sharply from the ground. Moss coats fallen logs. And low-lying fog creeps along the trail. The lantern light dances across these surfaces, creating moving shadows that resemble figures standing in the woods. These illusions blur the line between reality and imagination, making the lantern man even more captivating. Travelers recount an almost hypnotic experience as they follow the glow. Steps seem lighter, movements more cautious, and the sounds of the forest fade into a soft echo. The glow of the lantern seems to pull the senses into focus, yet simultaneously draws the observer into the unknown. There is a rhythm to the encounter, a push and pull between pursuit and retreat, as if the lantern sets the pace and the forest follows. Encounters leave a lasting impression. Many hikers say they remember the path differently afterward. Turns appear longer, stones feel slipperier, and the air seems heavier. Some speak of a lingering feeling of presence, a sense that someone or something watches even after leaving the trailhead. Others describe seeing the lantern again at a distance, far ahead, only to find that no one is there. The phenomenon is not bound by location along the trail. Reports come from high ridges, shadowed valleys, and narrow bends. The lantern maintains a constant, ethereal consistency, whether glowing faintly or bright enough to illuminate the surrounding forest. Some observers report that multiple lanterns appear, though fleetingly, disappearing as soon as attention is drawn. It is clear that the lantern man is not bound by the same rules as humans. Speed, distance, and proximity have little effect. Its presence is both elusive and constant, a paradox that leaves visitors questioning their senses and memories. There is an unspoken etiquette when encountering the lantern. Locals warn against chasing it recklessly, suggesting that respect and observation are safer than pursuit. Many hikers find that simply stopping, observing from a distance, and acknowledging the presence allows for a more complete and mysterious encounter. The lantern then moves gracefully along the trail, unhurried, seemingly aware of its audience. The allure of dirty hairy trail is inseparable from the lantern man. The Figueria-S glow transforms a simple nighttime hike into an immersive experience, where the forest becomes alive with unseen activity. The scent of smoke, the shifting shadows, and the floating light together craft an atmosphere thick with mystery. Visitors leave with more questions than answers, carrying the memory of the lantern with them as both a warning and a wonder. Those who return often speak of anticipation, a subtle nervous excitement as they hike the trail after dusk. The Lanterna-S glow is never guaranteed, yet the possibility draws hikers into the forest again and again. Each sighting feels unique, shaped by weather, moonlight, fog, and the observer's perception, making every encounter distinct and unforgettable. Ultimately, the Lantern Man remains a guardian of the night, a presence that exists just beyond comprehension. The trail itself becomes a stage, and the glowing lantern the star of a performance that repeats endlessly for those who venture into the darkness. For anyone walking Dirty Harry Trail at night, the lesson is clear: tread carefully, watch quietly, and be prepared for the impossible. The lantern's glow is a reminder that even in the familiar woods, mysteries linger. Shadows hold stories, and sometimes, the forest itself reaches out with light, guiding, teasing, and disappearing just when you think you can touch it. The Wallace River Trail winds through dense forests, steep ridges, and quiet riverbanks, a trail beloved for its natural beauty and the sense of isolation it provides. During the day, hikers are accompanied by the songs of birds, the rustle of leaves in the wind, and the soft babbling of the river. But as the sun dips behind the mountains and shadows stretch long across the path, the trail transforms. The air becomes heavier, colder, and whispers seem to drift with the breeze, carrying messages just beyond comprehension. Many hikers recount the first signs of the supernatural as subtle, almost imperceptible. A sudden gust of icy air chills the back of the neck, brushing along the skin without warning. The trees sway slightly, though the wind appears still. And the mist rising from the river thickens, forming shapes that seem almost human. It is in these moments that the legend of the cold breath comes alive. A story passed quietly from those who walk the trail at twilight and beyond. Sightings vary, but a recurring description emerges. A figure gliding along the path, a misty silhouette moving without touching the ground. It is tall, indistinct, and shrouded in haze, yet there is a sense of purpose in its movement. Some see the figure vanish as quickly as it appears, leaving only the chill in the air and the sound of whispers carried off by the river breeze. Others follow, or attempt to approach, only to find the trail empty, the figure dissolved into nothingness, as if it were never there at all. The whispers are equally unsettling. They are soft, fragmented, carried along the gusts of wind, and seem to speak to the hiker personally. Some hear their own name, while others hear words urging caution or simply repeating unintelligible sounds. The effect is disorienting, a blend of fear and curiosity, as though the forest itself is aware of every step taken along its winding path. Encounters are not limited to the evening. Some hikers report feeling sudden cold gusts, or noticing misty shapes in early morning fog. Yet the intensity increases after sunset, when shadows deepen, and the trail grows silent. The usual sounds of birds and flowing water replaced by an eerie stillness. The trees stand as silent witnesses to whatever moves unseen among them. The cold breath seems drawn to those who pause on the trail or wander slightly off path. Hikers who stop to rest or photograph the mist often feel a pressure in the air, as if unseen eyes are observing them. Some feel the temperature drop dramatically around them, a cold that cannot be explained by the mountain air alone. Shadows twist and lengthen unnaturally, and faint silhouettes appear in peripheral vision, vanishing when directly looked at. Stories tell of the Figueria-S origin, though no definitive explanation exists. Some believe it to be the spirit of a lost hiker, wandering the trail eternally, seeking to warn others or to retrace a journey never completed. Others suggest the cold breath is a manifestation of the forest itself, a sentinel of the wilderness, moving among the trees to remind humans of the raw and untamed power of nature. Whichever the truth, the experience is undeniably real to those who encounter it. Hikers who follow the trail carefully often find themselves with mixed emotions. Awe at the beauty of the river. Fear at the sudden chills. And curiosity about what they glimpsed in the fog. The presence is never overtly threatening. Yet it is impossible to ignore. There is a weight in the atmosphere. A sense that the trail is alive in ways unseen. That the mist and cold air carry memory. Attention, and awareness of every passing soul. Some hikers have recorded faint audio, capturing whispers and rustling that cannot be attributed to natural causes. Photographs sometimes reveal hazy shapes, elongated shadows, or unexplained distortions in the mist. While scientific explanations may be offered temperature differentials, light refraction, or auditory illusions, those who have felt the cold breath on their own skin speak of a tangible presence, a sensation that lingers long after leaving the trailhead. The trail itself seems to hold memory, with certain areas more active than others. Narrow bends near riverbanks, sections under dense canopy, and spots where fog pools in the low valleys are common locations for sightings. Hikers report that even when the figure is not seen, the air feels heavier, colder, and alive with the sensation of being watched. The phenomenon seems to follow no schedule, appearing unpredictably, ensuring that every journey along Wallace River Trail is unique and unforgettable. Encounters leave a lasting impression. Some hikers feel compelled to move quickly, driven by an instinctive awareness of the figure's presence. Others pause, unable to look away, captivated by the mysterious silhouette and the whispered messages carried on the cold wind. Many describe a heightened sense of perception, noticing details of the forest, the sound of water, and the movement of wildlife with remarkable clarity, as though the cold breath heightens awareness, urging caution and attention. Legends endure because the trail itself is timeless. Seasons change, rivers swell and recede. And the forest grows and shifts. Yet the stories remain consistent. Those who walk the trail speak of respect for the wilderness. For the unseen forces that inhabit it, and for the lingering spirits that may move silently alongside them. As night falls over Wallace River Trail, the mist thickens and shadows grow long across the path. Hikers may feel the sudden chill of the cold breath, hear whispers carried by unseen currents, or glimpse a figure gliding silently above the trail. Hear whispers carried by unseen currents, or glimpse a figure gliding silently above the trail. The experience is fleeting, yet unforgettable, a reminder that some paths are watched, some forests remember, and that the mountains and rivers hold secrets beyond the reach of the ordinary eye. A reminder that some paths are watched, some forests remember, and that the mountains and rivers hold secrets beyond the reach of the ordinary eye. Some forests remember, and that the mountains and rivers hold secrets beyond the reach of the ordinary eye. And that the mountains and rivers hold secrets beyond the reach of the ordinary eye. Beyond the reach of the ordinary eye. The experience is fleeting, yet unforgettable, a reminder that some paths are watched, some forests remember, and that the mountains and rivers hold secrets beyond the reach of the ordinary eye. A reminder that some paths are watched, some forests remember, and that the mountains and rivers hold secrets beyond the reach of the ordinary eye. Some forests remember, and that the mountains and rivers hold secrets beyond the reach of the ordinary eye. And that the mountains and rivers hold secrets beyond the reach of the ordinary eye. Beyond the reach of the ordinary eye. In every encounter, the cold breath leaves a message: the trail is alive. The forest is aware, and those who pass through are never truly alone. Whether seen, heard, or merely felt, the presence lingers in memory. A silent companion on the journey, a spectral guardian of the Wallace River Trail. Those who return speak with reverence, awe, and an awareness that the patient, observant, and respectful traveler may ever experience. Hurricane Ridge trails in the Olympic Mountains stretch across high ridges and deep valleys, offering breathtaking views of peaks, forests, and the distant waters of the Strait of Juan de Fuca. By day, the trails are alive with hikers, families, and nature enthusiasts, the sound of wind through the pines blending with birdsong and the distant rush of waterfalls. Yet as night falls, the ridge transforms, and an atmosphere of isolation and mystery descends over the trails, as if the wilderness itself holds secrets beyond the reach of daylight. Visitors to the trails after dark often report hearing screams echoing across the ridges and valleys. The sound is sudden, piercing, and unmistakable, yet when hikers search for its source, the mountains remain empty and silent. The scream seems to drift on the wind, fading into the distance and then returning moments later from a different direction. The scream carries a tone of anguish, of fear, or perhaps of warning, and lingers in the mind long after it fades. Alongside the screams, hikers have occasionally glimpsed a shadowy figure among the trees or on the cliff edges. The figure is dark, human-shaped yet indistinct, moving with deliberate purpose. At times, it appears perched at the edge of a cliff, observing the trails below. Other times, it is seen slipping between the trunks of tall pines, moving silently and quickly, never approaching directly but maintaining a constant presence in the observer's periphery. When approached, the figure vanishes, dissolving into shadows and mist, leaving the trail empty once more. One hiker recounted walking along the ridge after sunset, the sky painted with fading light and the distant peaks cloaked in shadow. A sudden scream echoed from the cliffs above, sharp and full of intensity. The hiker froze, scanning the rocky slopes and tree lines, but no one was visible. Moments later, a dark shape appeared on a jagged cliff edge, still and silent, staring toward the trail. Heart racing, the hiker stepped forward, and the figure dissolved instantly into the evening mist. The echoes of the scream lingered, as if the mountains themselves were breathing in memory and releasing it through sound. The environment of Hurricane Ridge amplifies these experiences. Sound travels unpredictably, carrying and distorting echoes. Fog and mist often roll across the ridges at night, reducing visibility. And transforming familiar terrain into a maze of shadow and form. The combination of wind, temperature, and topography makes the trail feel alive, heightening perception, creating an impression that the wilderness itself is watching. Local legend holds that the ridge is home to a restless spirit, known among hikers as the Screaming Shadow. Some say it is the ghost of a climber lost in a storm, still wandering the trails in anguish and warning others of danger. Others believe it is a manifestation of the mountains themselves, a presence born of history, memory, and the wild energy of the peaks. Witnesses describe the figure as patient and deliberate, its appearance fleeting but impossible to ignore. A reminder of the thin boundary between the natural and the supernatural. The experience is both terrifying and mesmerizing. The scream carries an emotional weight, creating tension and apprehension, while the shadowy figure captivates the senses with its presence and mystery. Observers often report a mixture of fear, awe, and curiosity. The wilderness heightened to an intensity that is almost tangible. The trails feel longer, the trees taller, and the cliffs steeper, as though the landscape itself is transformed by the presence of the unseen. Even when the figure and the screams are not present, the trails retain a charged atmosphere. Wind whistles through the pines, shadows stretch and shift with the moonlight, and the distant valleys seem to hold echoes of past events. Hikers often describe a heightened sense of awareness, noticing the smallest details in rocks, leaves, and movement within the forest. Every footstep and snap of a twig feels amplified, as if the wilderness is attentive, observing and remembering each passage along the trail. Encounters with the Screaming Shadow leave a lasting impression. Witnesses report a persistent sense of being watched or followed, even after leaving the ridge. The echoes of the scream, the memory of the figure perched silently on a cliff, and the chill of the night air remain vivid, creating a haunting connection between the observer and the mountain. These experiences suggest that Hurricane Ridge is more than a trail through nature, it is a space where history, memory, and the unknown converge. Hurricane Ridge trails endure as a place where the ordinary and extraordinary meet. The cliffs, forests, and ridges, combined with sudden screams and fleeting shadows, create an environment that is immersive and unforgettable. Hikers who venture there at night encounter not only the natural beauty of the Olympic Mountains but also the presence of the screaming shadow, a silent sentinel of the wilderness, reminding all who pass that some places are alive with stories, echoes, and unseen watchers. As night deepens and fog drifts across the ridges, the sound of a scream may cut through the stillness, and a shadow may appear at the edge of a cliff or between the trees. Those who follow the trails feel the presence of something unseen, patient and deliberate, vanishing into mist when approached. Hurricane Ridge remains a place where the unknown is tangible. The forest holds memory, and the screaming shadow endures, a haunting figure that continues to roam the trails long after darkness falls. Mount Townsend Loop winds through dense forest and rugged terrain, a path carved long ago for those seeking solitude and the beauty of the Pacific Northwest. By day, hikers traverse its trails, drawn to towering evergreens, moss-draped branches, and the distant call of birds hidden deep in the woods. But as the sun sinks and shadows lengthen, a different story unfolds along these trails, one whispered by locals and visitors alike, the tale of the vanishing backpackers. Some hikers report seeing figures moving along the trail ahead, carrying backpacks as if on a long journey. At first glance, they appear ordinary, dressed in typical hiking attire, walking at a steady pace, seemingly unaware of anyone nearby. Yet there is something unnerving in the way they move, deliberate but silent, almost as if the forest itself guides their steps. As visitors approach, the figures vanish. One moment, a hiker is visible ahead on the trail, framed by shafts of fading sunlight. The next, they are gone, leaving no trace on the path, no footprints in the soft earth, no rustle of clothing or gear. The only evidence of their passage is the faint sound of footsteps fading into the distance, lingering in the ears of those left behind. Witnesses describe a mixture of awe and fear upon encountering these spectral hikers. Some stop, frozen in place, trying to comprehend what they have just seen. Others call out, asking if they need help or directions, yet no response comes, only the echo of disappearing steps. The vanishing backpackers appear intent on their journey, uninterested in the living, moving silently and unerringly along the loop. The phenomenon is not limited to one section of the trail. Reports come from hikers along the full expanse of Mount Townsend Loop, from shaded valleys to sunlit ridges. Some describe the figures as solid and real, with backpacks and clothing that appear tangible, while others see them faint, blurred at the edges, as though formed from mist and forest shadows. The visual impression is fleeting but vivid, leaving a lasting sense of unease. The visual impression is fleeting but vivid, leaving a lasting sense of unease. Some describe the figures as solid and real, with backpacks and clothing that appear tangible, while others see them faint, blurred at the edges, as though formed from mist and forest shadows. Reports come from hikers along the full expanse of Mount Townsend Loop, from shaded valleys to sunlit ridges. The visual impression is fleeting but vivid, leaving a lasting sense of unease. The phenomenon is not limited to one section of the trail. Local lore attempts to explain the mysterious hikers. Some suggest they are spirits of those who vanished on the trail long ago, lost to the dense forest and rugged slopes. Others believe they are travelers caught between worlds, compelled to continue their journey eternally, unaware of the passage of time. Regardless of the explanation, all accounts emphasize a single, consistent detail: these figures do not interact with the living and cannot be approached. Those who have encountered the vanishing backpackers report an unsettling feeling in the air. A chill seems to follow their presence, and the forest grows unnaturally quiet. As if the wildlife itself senses the otherworldly. The soft crunch of leaves and twigs underfoot is replaced by an almost oppressive stillness. Broken only by the faint, retreating sound of footsteps that fade without ever crossing the observer's path. The forest itself seems to conspire with the apparition, shrouding the trail in mist or shadow at the precise moment the figures appear. Light plays through the trees in strange ways, casting patterns on the ground that suggest movement where none exists. The vanishing backpackers remain just beyond reach, always visible enough to provoke attention, yet always intangible, slipping away before the living can draw near. For hikers, the experience is unforgettable. Some describe a surreal mix of fascination and fear, unable to rationalize what they have seen. Many report feeling a silent connection, an unspoken acknowledgement of the figure's endless journey. Others, however, speak of unease, a deep-rooted fear that the forest itself hides more than wildlife. And that the trail is not merely a path but a threshold between worlds. Attempts to follow or catch up to the figures are futile. The vanishing backpackers seem to know every twist and turn of the trail, appearing further ahead in an impossible manner. By the time a hiker reaches the last place they were seen, they are gone, leaving only the faint echo of their steps and the quiet, lingering presence of the forest. Despite the eerie encounters, Mount Townsend Loop continues to draw adventurers. Visitors come for the scenery, the exercise, and the peace of nature, unaware or unconcerned about the tales. Yet those who have walked the loop at dusk, or under foggy conditions, often share the same story. Glimpses of hikers that vanish when approached, leaving the sound of fading footsteps as the only evidence of their existence. The vanishing backpackers remain a mystery. They are neither malevolent nor welcoming, simply present along the loop, a reminder of the forest's secrets and the persistence of stories that defy explanation. Hikers who encounter them leave with a sense of having witnessed something extraordinary, a fleeting connection to the unseen, a moment where the world of the living brushes against the spectral. As night falls and the last light filters through the canopy, the forest reclaims the trail. The wind rustles through the pines. The shadows stretch and shift. And the soft echo of footsteps fades entirely. Mount Townsend Loop returns to quietude. Yet the vanishing backpackers endure, walking endlessly. Carrying their packs, moving along trails where the living can only watch and wonder. Mount Pilchuck rises sharply above the surrounding forest, its trails winding through dense evergreens and rocky outcrops. The mountain is known for its breathtaking vistas and fog that rolls in swiftly from the valleys below, wrapping the peaks in a soft, ethereal blanket. She is seen on the higher trails, a figure draped entirely in mist, walking slowly as if time bends around her. Her form is indistinct, yet unmistakably human, a wraith-like shape that merges seamlessly with the fog. Those who encounter her describe a chill in the air, a dampness that seeps into clothes and skin, as though the mountain itself is exhaling through her presence. The first sign is often subtle. Hikers notice the fog thickening around a curve, a sense of being watched. A sense of being watched, and then the vague silhouette emerges, drifting along the path. The fog lady moves with a purpose that seems beyond mortal understanding. Her voice, when heard, is soft, almost human, whispering words that dissolve before they can be understood. The sound is like wine through the trees, carrying meaning just out of reach. Observers often describe a mixture of awe and unease. The mountain trail becomes a stage. Shadows shift unnaturally as she moves. And the mist seems to pulse with her presence. Some hikers report that the temperature drops suddenly. Their breath forming clouds. And the dampness feels heavier. Almost as if the fog carries her essence. The fog lady appears in different ways to different people. Some see her from a distance, a figure gliding over rocks or stepping lightly across fallen logs. Others encounter her more closely, feeling her presence in the air around them, a sensation of being followed without seeing footsteps. Her whispers are often the first indication that she is near. They are melodic and fleeting, a voice carried on the fog that vanishes as quickly as it arrives. Trail markers and natural features take on an unusual character during an encounter. Stones appear darker, roots more twisted, and the outlines of trees seem to bend toward her path, as if the mountain itself guides the observer's gaze, as if the mountain itself guides the observer's. The encounter is always brief. The fog lady moves along the trail at her own pace, fading into thicker fog when approached, leaving the hiker alone, but profoundly aware that the mountain is not empty. Many theories surround the fog lady. Some believe she is a spirit of the mountain, an ancient guardian. Others claim she is the echo of a lost hiker, doomed to wander. Whatever her origin, she seems aware of human presence and chooses. She appears when and how she chooses. Whatever her origin, she seems. Those who have seen her note that the encounter affects their perception of the trail. Distances seem to stretch, sounds are muffled, and the mist becomes thicker and more tangible. Even after she disappears, hikers describe a lingering sensation of being accompanied, a quiet awareness that the fog is alive with her passage. The whispers are among the most mysterious aspects. The fog lady speaks in a language that sounds familiar yet unintelligible. A cadence that is both soothing and unsettling. Some claim that if they focus intently, they can catch fragments of words or names, only for the sound to vanish as soon as they attempt comprehension. The voice seems attuned to attention, appearing just enough to draw curiosity without revealing meaning. Fog on Mount Pilchuck behaves differently when she is present. It swirls in unnatural patterns, coiling around rocks and branches, forming shapes that suggest movement even where none exists. Hikers have noted that the mist can thicken suddenly, isolating them from the surrounding trail, and then part just enough for a glimpse of her passing figure. This phenomenon creates the impression that she controls the fog, shaping it to guide, protect, or perhaps test those who walk the trails. Encounters with the fog lady are unpredictable. Some hikers report seeing her repeatedly over several miles, her form appearing and disappearing with the fog's shifting currents. Others catch only a fleeting glimpse, a shadow merging with the mist before they can react. Regardless of the duration, the effect is always profound, leaving a sense of mystery and reverence. Those who study Mount Pilchuck's legend suggest that the fog lady embodies the mountain's spirit, a living memory of Pilchuck itself. Her presence reminds visitors of the mountain's power and the thin veil between reality and the unseen. The trails of Mount Pilchuck carry her story silently. Hikers return with accounts of sudden chills, whispered sounds, and fleeting glimpses of a figure wrapped in fog. Each description adds to the legend, weaving together the personal experience of the trail with the mystery that envelopes the mountain. She is a figure of beauty and enigma, her path echoing the curves and peaks of Pilchuck, always present yet always just beyond reach. For those who walk Mount Pilchuck in fog, the advice is simple: move carefully, respect the mountain, and remain observant. The fog lady rewards awareness and patience. She appears not as a threat, but as a reminder that some forces of nature are beyond understanding, and that within mist and shadow, the mountain keeps its secrets. The fog lady of Mount Pilchuck is a ghost of presence and atmosphere, a living whisper within the trees. She transforms a simple hike into a journey into the unknown, a test of perception, and a brush with the mysterious. Her path along the trail, her fleeting voice, and the chill she leaves behind serve as enduring markers of the mountain's power and the secrets that linger in the fog. To witness her is to become part of the legend, to step onto a trail where every shadow and swirl of mist could conceal the extraordinary. She embodies the mountain itself, a constant, elusive, and breathtaking, and those who encounter her leave with an unforgettable memory of a presence that defies explanation. A figure that drifts silently along Mount Pilchuck, whispering and fading into the fog. The Crystal Mountain trails wind through dense forests, alpine meadows, and steep rocky inclines, offering hikers spectacular views during the day. Sunlight glints off the distant peaks and sparkling streams, creating a landscape of serene beauty. Yet as evening approaches and shadows stretch across the trails, the atmosphere shifts. Travelers speak of a presence that seems to move just ahead of them, guiding them subtly, yet not always in the direction they intend. Those who walk the trails in late afternoon or twilight sometimes notice a figure at the edge of their vision. Tall and indistinct, the phantom guide appears just far enough ahead to draw attention but close enough to suggest companionship. The forest grows quieter, and the wind seems to carry faint, unintelligible whispers that heighten unease. Hikers recount moments when they realize that the trail they are following is not the one they intended. Junctions and markers appear strangely altered. Familiar landmarks seem out of place, and even when the path is clear, a feeling of disorientation takes hold. Many report that the figure remains visible, always just ahead, sometimes pausing to look back, as if ensuring they continue. The sense of being led is undeniable, yet the destination is uncertain, and the hours pass without the trail leading to any recognizable point. Encounters are subtle at first. A shadow crossing the path, the fleeting glimmer of a shape among the trees, or the sudden impression of being observed from above a ridge. The figure does not speak, but its presence is commanding. Some hikers feel compelled to follow, drawn by an instinct they cannot explain. Others hesitate, sensing the danger in obedience, but find themselves moving forward despite hesitation. As though the forest itself exerts influence through the phantom guide. The trails are known for their natural challenges, loose rock, narrow switchbacks, and steep inclines. Yet hikers who follow the phantom often report missing obvious landmarks or signs, sometimes ending up several miles from where they intended. Some describe a profound loss of time, hours passing in what feels like mere moments. Others mention sudden changes in weather, a gust of cold wind, or a fog that descends around them, obscuring the trail. Several hikers describe attempts to turn back or ignore the figure. When they do, the phantom guide disappears from sight, only for the trail to loop back unexpectedly, placing them once again near the figure, waiting silently at a bend or ridge. This repetitive pattern contributes to the legend, reinforcing the idea that the entity is not malevolent but has its own purpose, leading travelers through the forest according to rules beyond human understanding. Some speculate the phantom guide is the spirit of a lost hiker or a long-deceased ranger, bound to the trails to shepherd or mislead those who pass through. Others suggest it is a manifestation of the mountain itself, a guardian of the wilderness, ensuring that those who enter remain respectful, alert, and cautious. The entity is never aggressive, yet its influence is absolute, guiding hikers where it chooses and imposing disorientation as a silent warning. Witnesses describe the figure as vaguely human in shape, cloaked in mist or shadow. Features are impossible to discern. It moves fluidly over rocks and through vegetation, appearing almost to float above the terrain. Light bends strangely around it, giving the impression of a presence both near and distant, always at the edge of perception. Some hikers swear they see the phantom guide stop, turn its head, and look back at them, as if checking progress or issuing an unspoken command. The forest reacts to its presence. Birds fall silent as the figure approaches. The sound of running water diminishes in the distance, and the usual creaks and rustles of the forest are replaced by a heavy, almost oppressive stillness. Shadows lengthen unnaturally, and the air grows noticeably colder. Hikers report goosebumps and the sensation of being observed from multiple angles. For those who encounter the phantom guide, the experience is deeply memorable. Time and space seem to warp. Hikers emerge from the trails exhausted, often confused by distances covered and unable to explain deviations from the intended path. Some feel a lingering presence, a subtle awareness that continues to shadow them even after leaving the mountain. Objects or tracks are sometimes left unexplained, footprints that fade quickly, displaced stones, or impressions in the snow that vanish before examination. The phantom guide reinforces caution and respect for the wilderness. Travelers learn quickly that the trails are not entirely predictable. And that attention to detail is crucial. The entity's presence underscores the unpredictable nature of the mountains. The importance of preparedness, and the acknowledgement that the forest has rules beyond human comprehension. Hikers who share stories of the guide often emphasize respect, awareness, and patience, warning others not to underestimate the trails or the spirits said to inhabit them. As dusk falls over Crystal Mountain, the phantom guide becomes most active. The fading light casts long shadows across rocky inclines, and mist rises from creeks and low-lying areas. The fading light casts long shadows across rocky inclines, and mist rises from creeks and low-lying areas. Those who walk during these hours report the figure appearing at the edge of sight, silently leading, drawing attention to hidden paths, or disappearing when approached. Those who walk during these hours report the figure appearing at the edge of sight, silently leading, drawing attention to hidden paths, or disappearing when approached. Those who walk during these hours report the figure appearing at the edge of sight, silently leading, drawing attention to hidden paths, or disappearing when approached. Those who walk during these hours report the figure appearing at the edge of sight, silently leading, drawing attention to hidden paths, or disappearing when approached. The trails are alive with presence, and the forest itself seems to hum with subtle, unseen energy. The trails are alive with presence, and the forest itself seems to hum with subtle, unseen energy. Every encounter, whether brief or prolonged, leaves hikers with a sense of awe and disorientation. They emerge with stories of a figure that cannot be captured on film or described in detail, yet whose influence is undeniable. Travelers carry a heightened awareness of their surroundings, a respect for the mountain, and a sense of the mystical, enduring presence that guides the trails in ways both protective and perplexing. The Phantom Guide is a reminder that Crystal Mountain trails are more than a collection of paths. They are a living, breathing entity, with mysteries that defy explanation. For those who venture along these trails at twilight or night, there is a lesson in observation, humility, and the subtle acknowledgement that some forces in nature move unseen, yet profoundly influence the journey of every traveler who dares to follow. In the end, the trails are a test of awareness, courage, and patience. The Phantom Guide, elusive and enigmatic, ensures that every journey is marked by respect for the wilderness, and a recognition that the mountains have their own rules, their own watchers, and their own silent, unseen guides, who accompany every step taken along the Crystal Mountain trails. The North Cascades rise sharply from valleys carved by rivers and glaciers, their rugged peaks cloaked in thick forests and mist. By day, hikers navigate winding trails, the air filled with the scent of pine and the distant roar of waterfalls. Sunlight filters through the canopy, illuminating ferns and moss-covered rocks, creating a serene, almost magical environment. Yet as the light fades, the mountains take on a different presence, a quiet energy that feels alive with unseen watchers and echoes of the past. Visitors who venture along the forest trails after dusk often report seeing figures of children playing among the trees. These figures appear as fleeting glimpses at first, shadows moving quickly through the underbrush, their small forms laughing and running along the path. The children seem unaware of observers, absorbed in their play, yet their presence carries a weight of something beyond the ordinary. Hikers often feel a mix of wonder and unease, drawn to the activity yet aware that something is not quite ordinary. As observers draw closer, the experience changes. The children vanish, dissolving into the trees or mist. leaving only faint laughter that echoes through the forest. The laughter is clear, high-pitched, and playful. Yet there is a haunting quality to it. A resonance that lingers in the mind long after the figures have disappeared. The effect is both enchanting and unsettling. A reminder that the forest holds memories and presences that do not belong entirely to the present. One hiker recalled walking along a trail near a small creek just as twilight fell. The forest was quiet except for the gentle trickle of water. Out of the corner of their eye, they noticed movementa, a small figure darting among the ferns. Another appeared, then another, chasing and laughing, their voices echoing softly. The hiker slowed, heart racing, and stepped closer to the figures, hoping to see them clearly. As they approached, the children faded into the shadows, leaving only the echo of laughter and the soft rustle of leaves. The hiker remained frozen, the sense of presence lingering long after the forest returned to silence. The dense forests of the North Cascades contribute to the phenomenon. Trees tower overhead, casting long shadows that shift with the movement of the wind. Fog often gathers in the valleys, curling around trunks and rocks, making shapes appear and disappear unexpectedly. The uneven terrain, scattered boulders, and winding paths amplify sounds, causing laughter and movement to carry farther than anticipated. These natural elements create an environment where fleeting glimpses of figures can appear vivid and real, blending perception and imagination seamlessly. These natural elements create an environment where fleeting glimpses of figures can appear vivid and real, blending perception and imagination seamlessly. Local lore suggests that the lost children may be spirits tied to the forest, perhaps children who wandered into the mountains long ago and never returned. Some believe the forest retains the echoes of their lives, replaying their playfulness for those who walk the trails after dark. Others see them as guardians of the forest, playful presences that linger among the trees to remind hikers of the vitality and fragility of life. Regardless of their origin, the consistent reports of sightings and laughter give the phenomenon a haunting reality for those who encounter it. Hikers describe a mixture of awe and apprehension during these encounters. The figures are not threatening, they move with innocence and joy. Yet the awareness that the children vanish when approached, and that only echoes of their laughter remain, creates a profound sense of mystery. Observers often describe heightened senses, noticing subtle sounds of wind, water, and wildlife that might otherwise go unnoticed. Each step along the trail becomes an experience layered with history, presence, and the unknown. Even when the figures are not seen, the forest holds their memory. The sound of distant laughter, the shifting shadows, and the faint impressions of movement in the underbrush create an atmosphere of watchfulness and memory. Travelers often leave the trails with the sense that the forest is alive with unseen activity, and that the presence of the lost children continues to echo through the North Cascades long after their footsteps fade. The trails of the North Cascades endure as places where the natural and supernatural intersect. The peaks, valleys, and dense forests create spaces where memory, energy, and presence converge. Those who encounter the lost children experience a connection to something beyond ordinary perception. A momentary glimpse of innocence and life that transcends time. The echoes of laughter, the fleeting figures, and the quiet energy of the forest transform the trail into a place of mystery, wonder, and reflection. As night deepens and mist drifts along the trails, the laughter may return, faint and playful, weaving through the trees. Shadows flicker along the paths, shapes appear and vanish, and the forest holds its secrets close. Hikers who walk the North Cascades after dusk carry with them the memory of the lost children, their presence etched into the experience of the trail, a haunting and beautiful reminder that some echoes of life continue to move through the world long after they have disappeared from sight. And so, our journey through Washington's haunted forest trails comes to an end, though perhaps the shadows, whispers, and ghostly figures follow you long after you leave. 20 trails where echoes of the past linger. Where spirits roam among the trees. And where the living are never truly alone. If you ever find yourself on these trails at night, remember. The forest may look quiet. But the trees hold more than just wildlife. And every step could be watched. Thank you for walking with me tonight. May your footsteps stay safe, your path clear, and your eyes only see the living. Before you leave, tell me in the comments. Which haunted forest trail frightened you the most, and would you dare hike one at night? Sleep carefully, dear listener. And watch the shadows between the trees. And the trees. The end.